Nilou is getting a massive buff with Nod Cry because of the release of Lauma. With this buff, she is looking like one of the most powerful AoE characters in the entire game. And although AoE is not as prevalent in Genshin as it once was, she is still very competent in single target with Lauma after the buff. So in this video, we're going to do a full and updated guide for Nilou to help you decide if you should get her or get Lauma for her or get her for Lauma, and how to make the most out of them if you do. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The 5.8 second half banners featuring Chaska and Mualani are upon us. If you're planning on spending on these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for all of my top-ups for over a year, and I have spent thousands of dollars on my account. They are 100% safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals that you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews and excellent customer service. It is extremely easy to use. Just click the pack that you want, enter your UID as well as your region, press top up now, and you'll get your Genesis crystals in just a couple seconds. Officially minutes, but that only took a couple seconds. With lootbar.gg, you get up to 25% off, and if you join VIP, you get loads of free coupons, so you can save even more. New users will also be able to get a further 10% discount from clicking my link in the description, as well as an exclusive offer just for this channel with a $2 welcome. It is partnerships like these that will allow me to continue bringing the content that I do to you, as well as support my family of 5. And as I said, I've been using them unsponsored for over a year for all of my purchases. So whether you're buying for Genshin or for any other Hoyo games, make sure to click my link to support the channel and your wallet. Starting with a build guide for her and all of her teammates. Your number one goal is to get as much HP as possible up to the cap of 74,444. You're only realistically going to be able to reach that with her signature, which gives a lot of HP in the main stat and the substat, as well as buffing the team's elemental mastery. So her weapon is very much worth it if you're a Nilou simp. You want to get some Nilou weapons, but she's definitely playable even without her weapon now that Lauma is here. Lauma definitely is a priority over the weapon. Yes, Lauma is that big of an increase. You need to level 90 her because of the HP increase. You don't need to worry about her talents at all. You can leave them at level 1 unless you're memeing with Escoffier or vape things. For constellations, her C1 does nothing, but her C2 is quite excellent. We do have that constellation picker now, so if you get a lucky C1 or you just really want to whale out, then you can consider getting her C2. Her C1 is a bit of a quality of life increase, but it's not a big deal. For artifacts, HP, HP, HP on the main stats, and you're looking for 2-piece tenacity, 2-piece Varukasha's glow, should be very easy to get HP substats for her, or HP main stats for her, sorry. You're looking for HP main stats, even flat HP, and of course elemental mastery, as she will take a fair bit of ownership of blooms, so elemental mastery is considered a very good stat for her. With my build in particular, I'm overcapping on the base passive, so I could go for a little bit more elemental mastery and a little bit less HP if I wanted to really min-max things. For her teams, it is a little bit tricky. You need to have someone on Deepwood. That is the most important thing. Often it is going to be Nahida. Gearing Nahida is not super straightforward, but it's also not super important either. Either Lauma or Nahida should be on the Nightweaver's Looking Glass, Lauma's signature weapon, if you have it. It's not worth pulling if you don't have it. Otherwise, Nahida's signature is good for her personal damage. Kagra's Verity is good for her personal damage. I would say her signature is better because it's both personal damage and team buffing. Kagra's Verity is only really good for personal, so don't really want to go with that on the Nilou team. Both Seatlali's and Mizuki's weapon are good EM stat sticks for her, better than the 4-star options. Neither of them are particularly crazy. Sacrificial Fragments and Widsith are solid 4-star options on this team. Building up more EM is probably optimal, so going for Sac Frags if you have another one is good, but the Widsith is fine too. As long as you build EM on her, she's still going to be buffing. Magic Guide is her go-to free-to-play option, and if you already have a leveled Mappa Mare, you can use that. Black Marrow Lantern's alright, as it does give some elemental mastery, but it doesn't really buff the other blooms on the team, and she doesn't create very many blooms, so not really that good. One or even star buffs attack, which on a Nilou team is not that good. And then Aetherlight Splendaloot is a good weapon, and it's going to help you get your burst up, and it does give some good EM, but you're probably going to be running this on Lauma, but if you're not running on Lauma and you're running something else, then you can go with this on Nahida. Overall, whichever one you pick is going to be fine. You could even go Fav Codex, I suppose, but you're going to want to have some EM. So yeah, for build on Nahida, generally EM, but if your team's not quite generating all that much ER and you want to have her burst up more, then you can go for ER Sands, but ideally you'd get that through substats. Lauma is going to be running the new Silken Moon's Serenade if she's the solo Nod Cry, which she usually will be, but if you are running Aino and Baiju, which is a good option, then you can go to the Night of the Sky Unveiling. I know that's something you wouldn't be surprised to do, because by having 2 Nodcry characters on the team, Lauma no longer allows Nilou's blooms to crit. But because Lauma can run extra personal damage and you're getting more buffing from the support set, that team actually ends up being very competitive with the others. So it just depends on what team you want to run and how you want to build them. And I will go through all my team ranking and how they were able to clear Fearless later. For your bloom trigger, which is going to be the Hydro unit, you will want to run them on flowers. Again, EM. With the nerf to the bloom self-damage, it is much more worth building for flowers than it was before, because now you don't need to compromise and build half HP, half EM, or almost die. You can just build full EM and not worry about it too much. So for that reason, either Barbara or Kokomi as your Hydro trigger is generally going to be best, and just building as much elemental mastery as possible. Kokomi or Barbara will want to use the sacrificial fragments, as both the EM is very good and the skill cooldown is worth it on them, as opposed to Nahida, where it doesn't really help at all. For her teams, unless you have Lauma C1, Double Dendro and Single Hydro is generally going to be your best bet. I haven't tested Lauma C1 stuff. I'm not sure what kind of crazy stuff you might be able to do with it, but I don't think it's really worth the pulls, especially when Nilou's key is right there. But if you're really heavily investing into Nilou, I probably will test it at some point, maybe join my stream and ask me how it is on there. But for the normal stuff, all of this was tested with the key as the only 5-star weapon on the team, but if you don't have the key, it's still going to be fine. You're still going to get good clears. I tested the Fearless 5 boss, and I can't show the footage, but I will share with you my results. Nahida, Lauma, Kokomi is what I would consider overall the best team. It cleared the boss in just 60 seconds. Very, very impressive. And Shenhe is, of course, our stand-in for Lauma. But like I said, you could use any Hydro trigger, and the Hydro trigger doesn't have to be the healer. I used full EM Flowers of Paradise Lost Xingqiu. I do think that that is the best way to do this. And I used Baiju as our Dendro healer, and I actually got the same 60-second clear time. I expect Kokomi to be better overall, but this was still very, very, very impressive. It was a mix between on-field, we were just kind of quick swapping between Baiju and Shenhe, using, not Shenhe, Lauma, using Lauma's skill whenever ready, and using Baiju's the same. You don't have to go Xingqiu though. You can also go Aino, and we'll use Kachina as my stand-in for Aino. Aino was able to also one-phase the boss with just 60 seconds. Or 64 seconds, sorry. So very, very close. Barbara and Nahida was also very, very close. I consider it very, very comparable to the Kokomi version. You could do Yelan instead of Xingqiu, but it's kind of a waste. Less Hydro application, and the damage is non-existent because you're best off building full EM. If you don't have Nahida, or if you don't have Baiju, sorry, you can go for Yao Yao. This is the other free-to-play option. So yeah, if you don't have Nahida, and if you just want a free-to-play 4-star team, obviously it does require, you know, Nilou and Lauma, but as long as you have those two, Yao Yao and Xingqiu are going to be perfectly fine, and it's very, very strong. You're going to want to on-field Lauma as much as possible. This team couldn't quite hit the breakpoint, but maybe with some better play it could, so it cleared in a more closer to the 80-second mark instead of the 60-second, but that's, again, you have to wait for the boss to do its whole thing and then break its shield. That doesn't mean it's 20 seconds worse. It's still very, very good team. Also clocking in at the 80-second mark, 80-84, is the Kave version. On-field Kave is enough to sustain the team in general. I didn't even need to go prototype Amber on Lauma. If the enemies are very aggressive, you may need prototype Amber on Lauma to cover the incidental bloom damage, but again, the huge reduction in bloom damage to your team is very, very valuable and makes a big difference. Finally, if you're not able to get Lauma, I was able to clear the crab in 1:15 seconds, or sorry, 115 seconds with the traditional Kale version, so a substantial downgrade to the others. Lauma makes a massive, massive difference to this team and is the first priority you should consider even before the key. But if you don't want to get her, you can still brute force this Stygian Onslaught with this. You might be wondering how this all stacks up to Hyper Bloom. In general, against this boss, I would say it's fairly comparable. It was a bit easier to get a 1 cycle with Hyper Bloom, but not crazily so. I wouldn't consider Hyper Bloom that far ahead of Nilou version, but is cheaper to build since, you know, you don't need Nilou. You can run it with less 5 stars. But if you already have Nilou, depending on the content, I could see either Nilou or Hyper Bloom outperforming. Both are pretty easy to build and play. You can go with either, especially considering the best version of Hyper Bloom doesn't have a healer. But yeah, I don't consider Nilou like an upgrade over Hyper Bloom, but she's still good. And that's where I think we go into the next phase, which is the overall pull value and just power level and where I would consider Nilou these days. I think Nilou is much, much stronger. She's a very competent character now, and if you have her, she's absolutely worth building, worth using. I think she's good. The other thing versus Hyper Bloom, it was only like comparable in times when we look at the key. If you don't have the key, it's going to perform slower than Hyper Bloom because Hyper Bloom doesn't really have a good 5-star option, which is a downside for Hyper Bloom, but it's also an upside if you don't want to pull a 5-star weapon. So that's something to consider as well. So I consider Nilou teams very strong these days, possibly one of the best AoE teams in the game, but still not worth pulling just for meta because again, Hyper Bloom's right there, very free to play friendly. And if you want a 5-star upgrade to your Hyper Bloom team, it won't be Hyper Bloom anymore, but we just got the full kit for Nefer, and the preliminary calcs have her calcing as the 3rd best DPS in the game behind Moika and Skirk. So Nefer, and Nefer hits an AoE, unlike Hyper Bloom. So the better way to go than Nilou is going to be to wait for Nefer if it comes to pulling another 5-star. But I do think if you already have Nilou, you know, it's not a bad pull, and no, Nilou with the key is still not going to be as good as Nefer, even if Nefer's not having her signature weapon. Maybe if you consider the key plus C2, then we're getting close. I also do think that Nilou will be upgraded by Columbina in the future. I do expect that synergy to work, especially since Ino was surprisingly powerful with Nilou. But again, I also expect Columbina to buff Nefer. So yeah, for meta-wise, Nefer is the way to go. And unfortunately, Nefer and Nilou do not seem to have any synergy at all. They have active anti-synergy. So just putting a warning out there, it's not that you shouldn't, not that you can't go for Nilou if you want to play her, but it's going to be, you know, 20-30% worse, free to play to free to play. Overall, I thought the Nilou teams were fun and good, and I recommend playing it if you have Nilou. Let me know if you do and you are planning on going for her. Check out our podcast down below. I'll be making a Flynn's guide very soon. Check me out on Twitch. We're going to do a Flynn's and a Lauma giveaway. And if you don't want to do any of that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.